no matter what the law of the land is, no matter what the law says, I first come under the laws of God. The law of the land may say I can do this and I can do that, but if God's law says differently, I can't do it. God's example of authority includes creating you with an eternal soul without consulting you. God didn't consult you to say, I'm going to give you a soul. He created you with a soul without consulting you. He didn't say to you before you was born, hey, would you like to be a girl or a boy? He didn't say that. When He consulted you, He didn't consult you when you were going to be born. God's commandment of authority includes all the details of the offices and persons over you. Consider parental authority as an example of the most influential authority in your natural life. This is the first authority structure you meet in life. As soon as you were born, I picked up a little Hope this morning. Nothing gives me more thrill than picking up a little baby girl. She didn't ask for me to hold her. She said, Pastor, can you hold me? She didn't say that. She was given to me. And it is profoundly instructive for your life. Before creating you, God did not consult you about becoming a helpless subject of two big giants. Here you are, a little teeny tiny baby, and you look up and all you see is two big giant people around you. In their eyes. And before creating you, God did not consult you about two people He chose to be your parents. The effect of the office of parents and the two people He must input in them affects your life incredibly. The spirit towards goodness or towards evil. No matter, you were born into a family of two people. Whether good or bad, it was ordained by God. You called it. You had no choice. You could say to God, well, God, thanks a lot for bringing me down here. I would like to have been born in Hawaii or Switzerland or somewhere. My kids had no choice where they were going to be born. They were conceived. I had one child conceived in Ohio and born in Texas. I had one conceived we conceived one child in Indiana, and the child was born in Kansas. That child in my wife's womb had no choice as to where that child was going to be born. I want to go somewhere else. God providentially directed their lives and spirit. Foolishness or unkindness does not diminish the office or the authority or the duty you owe them. God never gave you a check. God never gave you to check their authority for their work, and their superior parents are in authority. The only exception to their authority are the endangerment of life or is God's positive command. So what I'm saying is parents bringing a child to life, that child had no choice but where that child was born. Authority. Let me hit the second word. Not only do I want to talk about what was the first one, the basis of authority. The second one is a definition of authority. What is the definition of authority? The word authority, the power or right to enforce obedience. This is God's definition. The power or right to enforce obedience. I don't care what rule a parent lays down to a child, they're not going to like it. I don't care what rules a school teacher or a college student lays down, they're not going to like it. I don't care what job you ever get, you, by your nature, is not going to like it. That's the nature of the beast. But authority has within it the power to enforce obedience. And so when your parent says do something, do it. If you rebel against that, then when you go to school, you rebel against what they say. If you rebel against what they say in school, you're going to rebel against what they say in your workplace. If the law says this, you learn to just disobey any law because it's not what you believe and you're not submissive. More or legally, the right to command or to give an ultimate decision. God has given authority to these groups, the right to command and to give authority. The word power, He gives them the authority and the power. Possession of control or command over others. The power is the possession of control or command over others. Because the word could mean domineering, to rule. It could speak of government. It could mean to sway. It could mean to command or to control, for the purpose of what we're going to talk about is the ordinance of God whereby certain offices were instituted among men for the benefit and the control of mankind. Left, if there was no control, if there was no authority, there would be chaos. I watched a show one time, or at least read a show, that every 12 years they went 6 months and there was no laws. In that 6 months period, you could do anything you wanted for 6 months and you would never be, wouldn't be against the law. Can you imagine building up your anger for 6 months? For 12 years, and then you waited for those 6 months and you've been wanting to do something for 12 years, and if you could do anything you wanted to do, and if you wouldn't be breaking any law, you'd be under no authority, you could kill a person, you could do whatever you wanted, and nobody would do anything to you. Can you imagine if there was no structure, if there was no laws? Thirdly, the source of authority. The source of authority.
Say the first two again.
What is the first one? The basis of authority. And what was the second one?
Definition of authority.
The definition of authority. And now the third is the source of authority. God gave man great authority, dominion, privilege, power over the rights of the entire animal kingdom. God created animals. There's not an animal that's ever been created that says you can't kill me. Every animal is under the authority of mankind. This is a God-given illustration of the principle of authority given to us in the first chapter of the Bible. God took counsel with Himself. He consulted Himself to give man total domination over the fish, the birds, and animals. The animals were cooperative. All the animals that were in the Garden of Eden were under the authority of Adam, and Adam was able to name every single animal. And then God gave Noah the authority and the power to call every animal of every kind to come into the ark. Animals were under the authority of man. And after the flood, God put a fear and a dread of man into every creature that He created. So God put into the animal a natural fear that when you see an animal, they're more afraid of you than you are of them. There are very few animals that just nonchalant will just, unless you train them. And after the flood, God gave Noah and his family the right to eat any of them that they choose. And the law of Moses and Solomon limited the abuse to animals, of course. Secondly, God then ordained positions or office of authority to govern men. So though we can govern animals, God says government is going to control us. And they are, number one, husband, father, masters, kings, and pastors. 5 authority. God's given husbands, fathers, masters, kings, and pastors. God's given them the authority to rule over men. Consider that 7 billion people brought into existence in a completely helpless condition not only survived in a harsh and a reluctant environment, but actually prospered very well and accomplished great things. Those nations that have allowed and required these offices to function freely and properly have been blessed exceedingly and rich. Those nations that have allowed God's ordained authority to work properly, we have a great nation. There is no alternate way for human race to improve itself. God set up this system. God has set up this system that we live under, or should live under. If man would live under God's structure for mankind, it would be a wonderful society. But too often, we live in a society that somebody thinks is our better method of how to live. All around the world today, the war in Iraq, the war in all over the world. I mean, somebody's always got a better way of how to live and how to govern. They suppress the women, they suppress children, they have genocides because somebody thinks the best way to live in society is to do this and to do that and to do this. God has established a perfect way. God made choice for certain offices to govern and to control specific areas of our life. The office of a husband and a parent and masters, and kings and pastors were created by God. Well, who put you in charge? Who put you in charge? I've been a supervisor and someone said to me, who put you in charge? Is that what Gomer Powell said to his sergeant? Well, who put you in charge? God placed us in charge for our benefit. God created a woman for Adam and put her under his helper for sin. God brings children into this world absolutely incapable of any conscious action. A child is born like Hope in a hopeless condition, has no ability to function on their own, and God put her under the authority of her parents. And God confirms the natural separation process of men into masters and servants. God appointed and defended political rulers. God appointed His priests and pastors to oversight in public ministry. So God has always set someone over a group of people. For instance, like if, let's say that I work for Ron. I go to work for Ron. Guess who's in authority? Ron is, as a servant. When he comes to church, guess who's under your authority? Pastor. But guess who's my authority? Who's my authority? My wife. On the way over today. Almost every Sunday on the way over, she instructs me on doing it. But God is my authority. And I may be under his authority, but he's under somebody else's authority. He can't get out of it, can he? So this requires the man in the office to exercise authority, to exercise his authority, his office. Let me say that again. This requires the man in the office to exercise authority, to exercise his office. If I've been given an office of pastor, then I need to exercise that authority. If God has put me in a position of a parent, I need to exercise that authority over where I'm in. So that is regardless of the man in the office, the authority comes from God. Well, who gave you that authority to tell me I need to wake up, go to school, and get to work? God did. Delegated authority and the value of those positions are covered later in our thought. God then providentially prepares men to fill the office. So then not only does God say the husband is in authority, etc., 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 He actually prepares the person in that position with have the ability to perform that office. God prepared my life to be a pastor. God prepares a person's life to become the President of the United States. A person is prepared by God to become a parent. And God prepares men for ruling over men by giving them superior wisdom and understanding. God prepares men for ruling by giving them physical superiority over other men. God prepares men for ruling by giving them a new heart to prepare them for it. And God prepares men for ruling by subjecting their people under them. And God prepares men for ruling by giving them gifts. So the ability to be a parent, the ability to be a parent, or a husband, or an owner, or a king, God prepares them to be able to do that. God gave women the ability, the gifts to be a mom. So the gift that God's given you is so that you may have authority to do it correctly. God prepares men for ruling by superior circumstances. And consider how God has partitioned. It is amazing, for instance, Oliver North. You remember Oliver North? God prepared him to be in a certain position at a certain time to do certain things. And so not only does God place authority, He gives men and women the ability to perform the act of being in that authority in their office. So the Scripture speaks generally of God being responsible for the very men in position of authority. So when God places someone in authority, He gives them the power and the wisdom and the knowledge to be in that place of authority. Because God specifically states in His Bible how to be a husband, how to be a father, how to be a ruler, how to be a servant, how to be a king. And He specifically states this is how you can best do it. So God just doesn't say, you can rule over this person, you can rule over this person, but God says, I'm going to show you how to be the best of what you do. So God is wise. God is what you would be wise to obey your mom and dad, or those who are in authority over you. You would be most wise if you listen to your school teacher that you're in subordinate to. I had someone I knew recently that, when I say recently, it could be 10 years ago, that his school teacher said, if you're going to pass, you have to do homework. But this person I know quite well says, I don't want to do homework. I don't listen to anything you're saying. And he decided not to do it. Guess what? He didn't pass. See, he wanted to be in authority over what he should do and he should not do.